Hey everyone, this is Baron and welcome back to your Brain on Books. Today I want to talk about what might be if not one of the greatest speculative fiction novels of the past 10 years, and that is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. This is a Hugo Award-winning novel, first of a trilogy, and all three entries did receive a Hugo Award. Kind of a historic achievement by Jemisin. Hasn't been done before, might never be done again. We'll see. So really what I want to talk to you guys about today is why is this an award-winning book? And is this the right book for you? So first off, this is kind of difficult to review in the traditional sense, just going over like characters and plot and everything else. This is such a tightly interwoven narrative that once you kind of talk about a single element, it can kind of spoil the entire story. But what I will say is it just follows three main protagonists. And let's get the elephant out of the room. One of the protagonists' part is told in the second person. Now, this is a kind of a shocking thing for a lot of people, very divisive, and I think it's the make or break element for this book for a lot of people. I personally found it to be incredibly immersive and extremely well done by Jemisin. And it unfortunately kind of made me hesitant to pick this up in the first place, and I hope that doesn't happen to you, because I will say she executes it flawlessly. There is a reason to it, and the payoff is absolutely worth it. So going on from there, what is the real setting of this novel? Well, it's Earth. At least it's said to be Earth. Is it our Earth? Is it an alternate reality? Well, that's not really clear. But it is an apocalyptic environment, far-flung future, where a cataclysmic event has basically destroyed the planet and society, not once, but multiple times. And each time when these events occur, that's called a season. Hence the name The Fifth Season added to our four existing ones. And when you kind of are able to add this reoccurring apocalyptic scenario, Jemisin is really able to explore some pretty interesting things in society. So from an anthropological sense, ecology is a big driver in how society functions, right? And in this novel, she explores that to the nth degree. So much so that I felt like the Earth itself was its own character, very unique. And just, a complete masterclass on how to really present that sort of theme in this novel. Now, moving on from there, one of the things she does fantastic is kind of tackling some very controversial or heavy topics. In this novel, there's a lot of discussion around race and equality and sexual orientation, a lot of things that are like kind of at the forefront of a lot of conversation in our current society, right? But she's able to handle these with such grace and never insulting the reader to where it never feels soapboxy. It never feels like she's interjecting her own opinion on these things. However, it's this natural way of how the society functions to where you really have some thought-provoking moments. And it's just like I said, she just handles it so gracefully that I think that other authors really should lead by her example on if you want to kind of include kind of hot button issues within a fantasy novel. This is how you do it. And this is why I think this is an award-winning entry. Just so well done. Phenomenal. Okay, the next thing I think that's really stand out about this is it's the way it kind of genre blends. So I've heard this classified as science fiction and also as fantasy. I think fantasy would probably be the more common, categorization for this. And I think both would technically be correct. So the real question is, what defines something as science fiction and what defines something as fantasy? And so fantasy is, an alternate world, and we're willing to suspend disbelief as a reader as long as the rules of that world are consistent, right? Now, science fiction, on the other hand, is the introduction of novum, right? So that's a new element thrown into our world, and as long as we perceive the rules of that item as consistent, we can then suspend disbelief. Now, I feel like she kind of does both of these at the same time. So even though you're dealing with Earth, the novum that's introduced in the typical science fiction sense is actually a fantastical element. Or at least you think so. Is it? No, find out. So a very unique way of doing this. And I think throughout the whole trilogy, she really has this like just weaving through each genre and kind of covers this huge spectrum of speculative fiction, which I just don't really see anywhere else. Like there's nothing else like this, not even close. So much fantasy and science fiction is pretty derivative, right? It's like, is this Dune or is it Lord of the Rings? And is it a combination of both, right? This is its own entity. And her authorial voice is so strong in this. And when you start to include the genre blending, the unique perspective choices, the thematic elements that's thrown in here, and the huge reflection on our own society, you have one of the greatest works of speculative fiction ever. Not so much so, like, even though this is speculative fiction, like I just consider this to be literature, overall. Like when people kind of like snicker at fantasy and say, that's not literature or anything, that's, just kind of escapist genre fiction or whatever. Usually the first book that comes in my head when people say that is The Fifth Season. And I'm just like, no, you need to read this and tell me that there's no literary merit in this novel. I would be shocked if anyone could say that to me with a straight face. So anyway, thanks for coming by. I highly encourage you to pick this up. I think this novel is a complete masterpiece. The trilogy is a masterpiece. It's a heavy read. It's a dark read, but it's incredibly rewarding. Pick it up. Let me know what you think.